Today we've got a really special guest, Alex Fletcher, who swam the English Channel. So he swam from England to France, 57 kilometers over 14 hours on the 13th of July, 2024. And we're going to learn about his training program. We're going to learn about how he managed the event. We're going to learn about mental resilience and how he overcame some of the challenges that he faced. So can't wait to get him on and ask some questions. So we've got a very special guest on the show today. We've got Alex Fletcher, who is the 1,678th person to successfully swim from England to France, according to the CSA guidelines. So welcome, Alex. So I really appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having me.
So it's the 1,678th person to successfully swim from England to France. Is that a good feeling? Nice.
Feels good when you get the number.
Yeah.
So had the official dinner the beginning of this month and got the number, and that was felt quite nice to actually do it because it was still quite surreal for quite some time as well.
I can imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I'm so interested in this specifically because I think when I was about 21, I was thinking I want to do the English Channel. I think I learned some facts that more people have climbed Everest than have swam the English Channel. I read loads of blogs on it, so I kind of know quite a bit about it, but haven't got anywhere close to doing it. So why don't we start with just asking and finding out a bit more about what inspired you, and was there like a moment or and kind of what drove you to decide to do it?
Yeah, sure. So I think similar to you, my interest in this started quite a while ago. So I used to be a lifeguard.
Okay.
For anyone that's been a lifeguard, you can appreciate that is quite a. Obviously, your attention is always on the pool and the safety of everyone there, but it can be quite boring at times. And whilst you're watching these people going up and down and so on and so forth, I think then I was like, I wonder what some of the longest swims are and all of this sort of thing. And then I came across it's called the Ocean 7. So it's the 7 biggest like open water sea swims within the world. I think there's only 28 people that have achieved all of the 7
Seriously?
of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that where you go from, like, there's like the Irish Sea one, which is like Scotland's
the
islands.
Northern Channel is that's another one that I thought after this I was like, never swimming again.
Yeah.
Saw my swimming coach at this dinner and he was like, so Northern Channel. And so that's one of them. There's other ones, Gibraltar, Japan, and each has its own varying different challenges.
Yeah.
So the English Channel stood out to me, and I think it's probably the most renowned of those 7 swims. I'm sure other people would maybe disagree with that, but that's the one that stood out for me. And then when I was a lifeguard, I think probably about 19, with a few other friends to raise money for a charity, we did like a pool version of this.
Oh, okay.
Where we each did about a quarter of the distance or so. But that would be obviously point to point. So having learnt now that isn't the case, not the reality of being able to swim that. So that was where I was interested. And what tipped me over the edge, so I was in the military about 3 years ago. I left the regular army. Within the military, every day physical training is a huge part of your day and what you do, really, really encouraged across the board. And when I left to do my own bits in the corporate world and other things, that exercise isn't as much considered. So the tire started to grow, and I thought, you know what, I need a target and I need something. And as well, I think, tipping into the mental side of things as well, having your own time to train is quite important. For me, it was almost like meditation, being in the pool where you can't hear anything, your senses are almost like limited a bit. So it was quite,
It's quite mindful, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Maybe not to the point where you're spending 3, 4, 5, 6 hours in there, but
it gets a bit more than that. Yeah.
So that was what tipped me effectively, was left the army, needed something to go for, started reading into it, started speaking to certain coaches, and initially I thought, well, this is going to be like a 3-5 year journey. I'm not going to be able to swim that long constantly without, that real chunk of training. And my coach was like, well, do you know what? I almost hit the minimum metrics, which was that they'd like you to swim about 3 kilometers an hour and be able to sustain that pace. So I was more or less at that stage there. And he said, well, why not go for it a year and a half? So contacted him in January 23, and I did it on the 13th of July this year.
Wow.
So there
Okay.
we go. Yeah,
That's
0 to hero, 1.5 years.
that's insane. And the coach, did you know him before?
No, so on the so you mentioned before about the CSA, so the Channel Swimming Association was the association that I did it within, and they have recommendations for your region and for coaches.
Okay.
So being in London, reached out to Red Top Swimming,
Right.
and yeah, they were amazing at sort of helping me through it. Really,
That's mad. And when you say 3K an hour, is that over like an hour, or like what kind of tests do you have to?
So that would be, so generally you do a time trial in a pool.
Yeah.
You've got an hour on the clock,
Uh-huh.
and off you go.
And that's it.
Yes,
So it's for an hour. Yeah,
It's fairly, yeah. But that would be the base of it. The training that I did was slightly different to that, but I'm sure we'll go into the training another bit.
Yeah, yeah.
In a moment.
And because that sounds like quite a big, I guess almost first challenge, because you can, I guess being in the military, there's obviously probably tests you have to pass and things, but I guess you did the one when you were 19, and then that's the kind of next big one. Or have you done any other? I know you did some boxing at university and in the military and things, but would you say that was kind of quite a big step up?
Yeah, so I think I say teams, but boxing obviously not being, but so I was rugby for quite a bit. Like rugby, boxing, like MMA and judo and all that sort of thing. But a lot of, I suppose you're very susceptible to injury within that. I'll probably be throughout this, maybe clicking my neck and doing whatever, which hopefully as a physio, you can sort that out for me later on the time. But nothing, it's just a very, very different way to approach it. Like rugby, you've got a team there supporting you, so you go along to this. This is very individual. You've got to take yourself to the pool. Yes, your coach has done this and tried to join coaching teams, but it's very much, this is you. This is, it's all on you, really.
Yeah. I think I found that when I went from rugby to squash, where you lose together and you kind of think, oh, it's a kind of team effort. But when you lose in squash, it's like the end of the world. You feel like, it kind of brings up.
Losing at the Channel Swim is, so it is considered an extreme sport.
Seriously, yeah. And I guess the other main difference, obviously, the obvious one is just the endurance element as well, which, we'll talk about as well. But so obviously the training, lots of questions about that. Just how was that structured? Let's say the physical side.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, if we go, so again, Red Top were amazing for this. So they basically would draft me out week by week, everything that I was doing, and we would use Training Peaks. I don't know whether I can say, if I can say Training Peaks, then and the various different metrics that would track on me, the coach would respond to and tweak and change my program to better suit. If I was really fatigued, then I'd maybe slow down the sessions and do more of a technique session instead. But that would sort of happen week by week, and then as well as that, you would knit in like events that you would look towards achieving. So all of it would be structured around. So I think for me, events wise, first one that I did was the Channel Relay. So I did that as part of a team of 3. Then I did the Windermere Swim. Then Champion of Champions, which is something that the British Long Distance Swimming Association do. You basically, in a harbour, you do a 5-mile swim, then a 3-mile swim, then a 2-mile swim. Wow. Getting in and out of the water, which links to cold, which I can come on in a second. And then the other one was a cold weather swimming camp that was done in Croatia, which doesn't sound that cold, but it was done fairly, I think it was around April type time, so it was still quite chilly out there,
And that's all open water swimming, so that means no wetsuits, doesn't it?
So we mentioned earlier that it was the CSA, Channel Swimming Association piece. There are other associations that do exist that track and monitor this. The main one with the CSA, so the records haven't changed since the first crossing by Captain Webb, early 20th century type thing, and with Gertrude and things as well. First lady to cross. So since the parameters and the guidelines that they had then back then haven't changed, they've kept that the same. So for men, that would be no wetsuit. You can have fairly tiny little swimming trunks and things like this. A swim cap and some goggles, and that'll be it. You are allowed, or you do wear, you're allowed grease. Modern day, a lot of people ask me about goose fat and things like that. Modern day, think pretty much everyone, it's just Vaseline.
Mhm.
And unlike what a lot of people think, this isn't done to help insulate with heat. It's purely just chafing. So as you can
Right.
imagine, you'd chafe sort of here,
Yeah.
under the arms and various different areas. So
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
particularly nice.
I'm just going to just make sure that's not me. Okay. Am I right in thinking that, was it Captain Webb? Did he do a breaststroke? Did I imagine that? Or
He may. I don't know whether. I think he did it more than once.
right?
Not entirely sure. I think
Yeah.
the first time it would have been front crawl,
Okay.
but I know multiple people have done it via sort of different means.
Yeah.
For me, I don't think. I think
No.
front crawl is where I went to, and beyond that, yeah. But during the training, you do integrate like other strokes and things like that as well.
Yeah.
And I suppose actually that would be a good point to say. With the training, initially, it's structured and it's all geared about improving your technique and making you as fast in the water as possible.
Right.
That's
That's what I was going to ask, actually. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, there we go. So
Yeah. Just on that topic, really. Just, was that with a coach with slow-mo analysis, or was it kind of like video analysis, or how did it work? Yeah.
Sure. So it was a bit of a combination, really. So as I said, early on they focus on technique and speed, and coach used to say, which I didn't understand initially, feel the water. You got to feel all the water and all that sort of thing. And I was like, what sort of hippie salt stuff we talking about here?
Yeah.
But it was became really clear when you're doing sculling and other things like that. Actually, the more efficient that you are in the water, it just makes it so much better. So even though I felt pretty good about swimming, I had a swimming lesson at least probably once a month, once every couple of months. And the frequency of that increased the closer that I got to the swim. And I would do video analysis and also the coach just on the side doing analysis as well. So like efficiency test, I think I was very, very low in my efficiency when I was initially starting. And I thought I was pretty good, but really no.
Yeah.
And then they just change little elements of your technique sort of as you're going. And it increases the proficiency in the water, which then links back to, so your base test is always that 1 hour swim. How fast can you, like, how far can you achieve, within that period?
Yeah.
So I think early on, I was maybe about 3 kilometers an hour. And then closer to it, I think probably more like 3.6 or so was what I did just before.
Quite a big jump then, yeah.
Yeah, and again, hugely sort of technique driven, really as well.
Yeah. And out of those challenges that you mentioned, the champions, the Windermere and the Croatia one, were there any ones that stuck out as the most challenging? Or they're all pretty tough?
So I think the first one I did was the relay. Would recommend anyone to do the relay. It gives you a really nice taste of what the channel swim is. But all you would do, like, you do an hour on, and then however many other people are in your team, you have that time off. There was 3 of us, so I did an hour on, 2 hours off. And it took us 12 hours to do that.
Right.
I felt really good after that one.
Yeah.
Which meant the one when I did Windermere, which is, it's about half the distance of the channel, but obviously it's non-tidal. It's done in summer, so it's fairly warm, so you don't have that like chill to deal with.
Right.
And I was aiming to do it in sub 6 hours. I thought, off the back of the relay, this is great. You know, I'm really ready. Did that, and it didn't have a coach with me, but I had a friend that was just alongside me in a kayak. Bless him. His back slowly just melting as he was going for like the 6 hours, and I really, really struggled towards the end of that. I think the last maybe hour or so of that was awful, honestly. And because of that, I remember finishing that, instead of being like, yeah, I've done it, and I've done it in the time frame that I wanted to, I was like, in less than a year, I'm going to be doing over double that in the tide in this, and that really knocked me mentally, like, quite badly.
I can imagine.
I think if it wasn't for the coaching team and then also the swimming networks that I built up, so you meet an awesome network of people, like not just linked into sea swimming and marathon swimming and all that sort of thing, but you meet all sorts of people that are doing it as part of that, and just talking to them about these sorts of things. I've really struggled with this. God, am I even ready? And a lot of people would be saying, do you know what? I was in the same boat, but don't worry. You know, I was much better along further down the line. So that network really helped to pull me through.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, because like you said, on your own, you just wouldn't have come to those conclusions. Yeah.
No, I was like, do I commit and pay for the boat to go, or do I back out here and have done the relay?
And I guess did that end up being a positive thing? Just the fact that you overcame it, and
I think so.
I mean,
I tried not to dwell on, after having that chat with other people and going, okay, no, I'm not the only one that felt like this.
Yeah.
It helped me. I didn't try and dwell on that much anymore, and was just like, okay, let's affix
sort of
to
move on.
the next the next goal and the next thing.
Yeah, nice.
And I think the other, sorry, just to say onto that as well, I think part of it as well, I'd spoken to a lot of people about this is what, not in a boastful way.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure my brother would disagree with that, but so I told quite a lot of people, this is what I'm doing, this is my intent. And I think they held me to account to do it.
Okay.
So they would, if I remember, I think I bumped into you on the tube at some point. You're like, oh, how's the channel swim going?
Yeah.
And just those little things. In my head, I was like, I can't face Ed again in the tube if I've given up and I've backed away from it. Wow. So them holding you to account.
I'm glad I could play my part.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
Because I guess that's kind of like a type of pressure which, you'd see as a good type of pressure. Were you putting pressure on yourself, or was, would you say there's potential to be too much pressure, or?
That's a very good point, because a lot of people that I would speak to and say, oh, this is I'm swimming the channel, they'd be like, just why? Like, I think the majority, what have you got to prove? Like, what are you trying to swim away from? What issues have you got in your mind that you're trying to swim away from or escape from? And it wasn't until I properly got into the swimming network when, as opposed to them saying, well, why are you doing this? It was more so like, come along for the journey, enjoy all of that, enjoying, swimming camps in Croatia, doing all this, meeting all these people. And a lot of them are doing, so there was a few people that were doing the Ocean 7 and aiming towards that. Oh. I think there was a couple of people that I met that were doing, I think he was either this year or next year, he's doing it 3 times consecutively.
That's crazy.
I could not do that. That would, And then another chap now, Mitch Hutch. I don't know if you've come across him. He's doing I recognize
his name.
Doing something called Limitless at the moment. So he's doing the longest ascent of Everest. He was on my swim camp as well. And just being amongst these other people with all these sort of grand ideas, surround yourself with those sorts of people. Yeah. And it just put all the negativity just into a box in the corner of my mind and just leave it be. So
I guess that comes on to the kind of mental training and just that's kind of what we've ended up talking about. But did the coaches talk about mental training or mental resilience, or was it just a part of the physical training as well?
The coaches definitely did, and they were encouraging various different podcasts of mental resilience and things to listen to as well. I'm sure this will probably be on their list at some point. Okay. And one of the techniques that they did that was for in the water. So I think the entire swim took me 14 hours. So that is 14 hours non-stop. You touch the boat, you're disqualified. If anyone gets in and paces you, so they're in front of you, you're disqualified. If anyone touches you before you raise your arms up out of the water, shows that you're unsupported, you're disqualified. And if I was to think, standing at the White Cliffs, looking over to France, right, well, I'm just going to get in now and swim for 14 hours, I think mentally I would feed to myself. So what they introduced is, so you have feeds throughout where they'll throw you a liquid feed over the boat, and they broke that down into, so every half an hour. So every half an hour I knew I was getting a feed. And because of that, when I was particularly struggling or going through something that I really didn't enjoy, I was always like, well, just got to go to the next half an hour window. Just go to the next half an hour piece. Yeah. And then when they gave you that, if you were really struggling, so I told them the feeds had to vary. So some of them were, caffeine in, some of them were energy, some of them were this, the other, some of them were protein. When you'd had a particularly bad time, it would be a nice, really warm hot chocolate.
Oh, okay.
With extra sugar in and all that sort of thing. And you'd be like, spirits lifted. Oh. And also they would have like, so my wife also wasn't on the boat because sea state was really bad. It was rocking, and they advised don't have anyone on the boat you're going to be worried about. You need to think about your swim.
Mm-hmm.
But they were in constant comms with them on the phone.
Yeah.
And they would write out like things on the board so that when I was swimming away, then I could see, or when I did my feed.
No way.
And that was really helpful for just messages coming in through friends and things like that. So breaking it down, I think, was the answer to that, really.
Nice. So no, that makes perfect sense. And let's talk about unexpected challenges, either in the training or during the events as well. Anything that took you by surprise, or anything that was kind of probably lots.
So as good of a plan as it is, there was definitely not without fault. So I think the first thing that comes to mind with that was, I think I'd mentioned before about the difficulty of there's this event that was too hard.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing is the windows.
Right.
So unlike just to explain the windows, that probably doesn't make a lot of sense. So unlike a marathon, or running race or whatever, you can chuck your trainers on, pretty much go outside in most weathers.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with sea swimming and open water swimming like that really isn't the case.
Mm-hmm.
So the sea state, the weather and things make a huge difference in whether or not you can or cannot go.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're going to swim, you get given a swim window, and you get given a number within that window as to when you would go.
Mm-hmm.
So my first window was, I was number 3 to go off that. And what I mean by that is, so the first person, ideally they would go on the first day, but if the weather doesn't permit, they go the second day.
Right.
The weather doesn't permit, they go third day. So say the first person got out on the third day, then the second person would have priority to be able to get out as well.
Okay.
So you're told this window.
Mm-hmm.
I've been training for a year and a half.
Yeah.
I start carb loading, I start tapering my training, doing all of this, and mentally I'm like, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
And then the coach is like, don't check the weather too much, because you just constantly be on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And the coach would speak to the pilot that would obviously weather update also every 6 hours.
Yeah.
You'd find out 24 hours before, no, the weather's looking good, 18 hours before, weather's still looking good, weather's still looking good.
Yeah.
Sometimes 12 hours before, no, it's a no-go, the weather's terrible.
Wow.
So it can't go.
Yeah.
So that mental preparation again of geeing yourself up
Mm-hmm.
to then the first window I didn't get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so it landed then to my second window. And for me, the third window, so had I slipped again, I was getting married.
Oh.
And I don't think my wife would have been too, Alter, see you later.
Yeah.
I'm off to France for a bit. So
Right.
for me, it was second window, that's that. And I got, I was number 1 to go in the first window. Again, the weather, not great. So I remember coach ringing me and saying, we really want to get you out. The weather isn't ideal. It isn't how we want it to be. Usually we would want, so obviously there's different variants of people that are swimming. A lot of people, I think on the same day that I went, there was a GB swimmer that went on the same day.
Right.
Who set out after me, came back before me, and I was like, she did like 8 hours, 45
Seriously?
minutes or something insane.
Wow.
So usually it's the really, really strong swimmers that would go out during a bit more of a poor sea state. But because of my wedding thing, he was like, do you know what? You're cusping on that. We'll be with you. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really rough, and I get really bad seasickness.
Oh no.
So I couldn't keep a feed down. And for the first half an hour, I felt great, adrenaline, off we go. And then about 31 minutes to about the 5-hour mark, I was swimming, and as I was swimming, I was just vomiting into the water.
Seriously?
Whilst I was going. Yeah, it was really not very pleasant.
Does that attract jellyfish or?
Not really jellyfish, no, at that point. I mean, the benefit of it being really rough was that the jellyfish tend to sink down.
Right.
I've got a good jellyfish story for you later on. The
Okay.
one that did catch me. But so because it was so, I was just so sick. I remember being like, if this is going to carry on, how am I going to keep going for, I was aiming off, 14 to 16 hours. 4 hours in, I was still being sick, couldn't keep down any feed. And it just meant I was just ruined, had zero energy. And I was like, I just don't know. Don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So coach was adding in things like ginger, and other bits and pieces into the feeds to help like stabilize a little bit, which did help. But I think trying to just the half an hour thing helps as well. But then I think probably the main thing for me mentally was I don't know whether this is going to sound particularly weird or not.
Yeah,
It
no,
worked for me.
fire
So
away.
weird or not. So
I've got some weird ones that I use, but
okay, there we go. Yeah. So you almost have like, you know, your own thoughts and attributed like voices to those different sort of thought types.
Right.
So the positive thoughts that I would have like a motivating one, an encouraging one, all of that sort of thing. And there was a friend that I was in the army with.
Okay.
Scottish lad,
right?
And any time that, you know, those positive thoughts would just be reinforced, and I could hear him in my head saying, "Go on, Fletch, get it." I'm not going to try that Scottish accent too much, but go on, Fletch, get going. You know,
Seriously.
you've got this, and that really helped. And then just when you get those negative thoughts and those negative elements, just don't give them that frontage in your mind. Don't give them that time of day within your mind, pushing that out. And I think that really helped me to get through that sickness, just listening to my Scottish friend, pushing me along, listening to my wife, listening to other things. And that just meant that I was kept going. And I think I stopped, as I say, stopped being sick about 4.5 hours.
Wow.
And still felt a bit ropey, but you know, after I'd overcome that, it gave me a lot more confidence to keep going.
Yeah. Was that the biggest part of the challenge, that kind of for those first 4 hours, or? Yeah.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
To a point there. Yeah, I'd say that was hard, and then towards the end as well.
Yeah.
So again, the way that it works, because it's very, very tidal, ideally you want to land on the cap.
Right.
But you know, if not, you can go across into the bay or to the beach on the other side.
Right.
The danger is that the tide pushes you and you land into a non-swimming zone. Then again, you know, you've been swimming 13 hours and you're disqualified because you're in a non-swimming zone.
Wow.
So there's always that danger.
Uh-huh.
Now, for me, I was coming into the cap and I was a little bit east of that. So I was going into the bay during slack tide. And my swimming coach was like, you know, I know you've been swimming for a while. You have to swim hard now, really hard now. Otherwise, the tide will change. And it doesn't just, it's almost like you're swimming against it and it will push you into that non-swimming zone.
Yeah.
So when my muscles felt like they were pulling my bones off and all that sort of thing, he was going, you know, swim as hard as anything. And I was going and going. And I just remember seeing almost the same marker of the lighthouse just on my left-hand side after swimming for like an hour or whatever. That bit where time just didn't feel like it was going anywhere. That bit was quite challenging as well. But again, breaking it down, half an hour, and also the positive voices in my head it really helped to just keep going. And of course, when you're that close to the end, nothing was gonna stop me there.
Yeah, I'm interested to know about fueling and just, you know, let's say leading up to the event and just on the event, how you fueled, how you kind of manage that side of things. And I guess also it'd be interesting to know, because again, I had that interest in doing it myself, if you had to actually put on weight to do the event as well. Because I feel like, I think the cold side of things must be, you've kind of need a bit of insulation.
Bit of meat. Yeah. So no, absolutely. So I thought before I'll do it. So obviously I was getting married, left the army from, you know, a pretty good physical state or aesthetic. And then I was like to my now wife, I was like, oh, I'll get, you know, I'll look great for the wedding because I'm going to do all of this swimming for the channel. Little did I know that actually, like exactly as you said, cold is probably one of the biggest factors, the biggest fail points. So about 50% of people that attempt it fail because, you know, the cold just gets the grip, gets over them. Depending on the time of year you're doing it. So I was doing it probably earlier within the season. You definitely need, one of my coach's biggest worries was me losing too much weight when I was in my high volume period.
Right.
And then as a result, he would almost be like, if you lose below a certain weight amount, it'd want to push me to the rear of the season or so. So I think when I swam it the water was, I want to say about 17 degrees ish, maybe 17, 18 degrees. But as you can imagine, 14 hours in that is there is a bitter chill to it. So yeah, so linked to the fueling then of that. So there's not only you trying to cater to maximize your like swimming ability and all of that sort of stuff, but then also you're trying to not lose weight. And especially during those, I think the higher volume weeks where I was training by myself were maybe like 35 kilometers, give or take, within a week. But then, you know, the swim camp was maybe like 60 plus kilometers in the week. Really? And if you can imagine when you're doing all of that in the pool, it was just melting off me. So I to a point, I was worried. Really? So lots and lots of pastas, lots of, you know, like protein recovery stuff, all of this sort of thing. There's a lot of really good podcasts on how to fuel it, but that's in like two ways. There's the actual swim doing it itself, and then there's all the build-up stuff. And mentally for me, like just eating another pasta, I was so sick of. Seriously, I didn't eat pasta for quite a while after I finished the swim off.
Is pasta better than rice then?
I don't. So it was like a varying those. So sometimes it'd be pasta, couscous, rice, just anything. Mainly for me, it was the variety. I think if you could just take one specific thing, I'm sure there would be one that is of more benefit than the others, but I wouldn't want that one. So for me, it's just purely variety.
Yeah, that's fair.
So there was that first side to it, which is keeping the weight on, and then the other side was when you're actually in the water. You can't really eat, do too much with that. So what I would do, I mentioned before, every half an hour I'd have a liquid feed. And within that liquid feed, it very much followed, I'm going to butcher this plan now, but there was like 4 different channels, I think they said, of nutrition and of being able to, what you could absorb in and what you could use. And basically my training plan, or feeding plan, sorry, cycled those things. Now, some people purely just go off the liquid feeding plan. For me, I needed something solid. So every 4 hours, I would have half a banana, I would have half a Mars bar or a bite of a Mars bar or something like that. That just, again, partly for the mental side, partly because, I don't know, for me, that just, after I'd eaten, I was like, oh gosh, you know, I feel so much better now to keep going for a bit longer.
Yeah, it's a real pick me up.
Yeah. And then in those feeds, I think so there'd be like a protein based one, there'd be like quite high sugar content ones, there'd be a huge variety of different things.
Yeah, nice. But no pasta on the big swim.
No pasta on the big swim, absolutely not. No. Or afterwards, no.
And is that what you called it? Would you say it was the big? Like, what would you refer to it on the way, like to training for it, like the big swim or?
The big swim. In terms of the.
What would you call it? Like the I don't know.
I don't think we. I don't think I think your solo would be what most people refer to it. Either your solo or your relay. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So, I remember before we started. Let me just get this right. I'm interested to know about the jellyfish as well, because I've definitely heard some stories. Sometimes you get lucky, sometimes you get unlucky. Just tell me if there was anything like that.
Oh, the jellyfish. So there is, I think Disney did a film on Gertrude, the first lady to cross it, first woman to cross it. And there's a scene within that when it shows her approaching the jellyfish.
Okay.
I would say that scene is fairly true to form, except they probably condense it to more than it is, just to paint that picture of what it actually is.
Yeah.
So there is, obviously there's jellyfish throughout. Yeah, you're going to get stung. The worst part of that is in the separation zone.
Okay.
So separation zone is between England and France, and it's where no ships are allowed or anything like that. And obviously the ships, when they go over, they usually churn the jellyfish and chuck them away.
Right.
So this part, because there's none of the ships, you have a really high density of jellyfish within there.
Right.
So usually you probably have, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 every square meter. Seriously? So they really are dotted.
They're peppered.
Yeah. And I think it's maybe for a kilometer. So in the Woman in the Sea, or the Lady of the Sea that Disney did, it shows they're really condensed, but they're only over about 100 meters, and she gets very stung. The reality of that is it's actually way further.
Gosh.
And, you know, they're not hugely dangerous jellyfish. I think there's some that are worse than others. But usually, for me anyway, when we combined it with the colds, the sting actually like heated up my skin.
Seriously?
So it was like a welcome.
Oh,
The jellyfish, it's woken me up. Like, I know what I'm doing now. I'm back in. But fortunately, because it was quite rough for myself, all the jellyfish just drop down, drop quite low. So when I was swimming, almost my fingertips felt like I was almost touching them, but I wasn't quite there.
Okay.
That said, the odd rogue one was there, and it did wake you up whilst you were going. The thing, I suppose, the story I've got linked to my sting,
right?
Which my coach found particularly funny. He said he'd done this for 15 years, and I was the only one that managed to do so. So as you can imagine, lots of liquid feed, lots of caffeine, lots of other bits. You often have to do your business on the move, yeah. And number one, you wouldn't stop; you just keep going. Number two, you maybe pause, trunks removed, do your business, and crack on. You can edit this out if needed. So I swimming along, and I was like, I need to start. I've been sick, obviously, quite badly before. My stomach was just doing like backflips, and I thought, this will help me out. So coach is like, crack on, do what you need to do. So do the business, pants back up, stomach felt a lot better. And when I tied my trunks up, I didn't quite tie them up as well as I should have done.
Right.
So swimming along, and actually I was in the separation zone then. So obviously there's more frequency of jellyfish. And there was, whether it was a dead jelly, it was something, basically my bum and my leg just started itching, and then it started like stinging a bit, and then it started burning. What happened as I'd been swimming along, a jellyfish had basically been sucked down into my bum crack because I hadn't tied my trunks up tight enough.
Right.
And it was just
having a
wrapped
feast
around. Yeah, it was just wrapped around my leg and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So quickly pulled that out in a probably quite a comical way for my coach to be able to see, and carried on. But that definitely woke me up.
That's one to remember. Yeah.
Yeah,
probably like I said, the silver lining was it probably woke you up quite nicely.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And so was the coach on the boat, or was it like a pilot? Like how did that work?
Yeah. So the mechanics of it, there's a fair few. To my mind, there's 14. That might be wrong. I think there's about 14 different boats that go across with the pilots linked to it.
Right.
So my boat was the Rwanda.
Okay.
Which also doubles up as a fishing boat.
Oh, okay.
And it's a really lovely sort of family that run that. And it's three. It's a dad and his two sons.
Okay.
And so the dad and one son were the pilots. So they're the ones that, as you can imagine, the sea is pushing you all over the place. And so you've just got to get that angle right to be able to, a good pilot will get you to the tip of the cap, which I managed to land on. So hats off to them.
Wow.
So there was those two as the pilot, and then the other son was the officiator from the CSA.
Oh, okay.
So they're the ones that are continually watching you to make sure that, all of those rules that I said, no one's pacing you, you're not getting any, you don't touch the boat, you're not getting any assistance. I think the one thing, sorry, going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the one thing that springs to mind was, so the way that they feed you, they chuck your bottle in, and it's on like a dog lead that pulls out and expands.
Right.
And the tide was taking the boat, and I was staying behind. So I'd get the bottle, you've got to open it, sort of refresh, right, get it in as quick as you can. And it's probably about this much of a feed in terms of liquid in like a, protein shaker or whatever. By the time I was getting it open, the boat was dragging. The dog lead was coming, almost to tension.
Right.
And they were like, you can't be pulled by the boat, or that's it, you're disqualified. So I maybe get a swig, and then I'd be like, I've got to get rid of it. So I had to say to the pilot, like, please, can we, please hold back. And obviously I did it in a very polite way. I didn't scream at them. I was like, please stay back. But so there was that. So sorry, back to the original question. So you've got the pilot on the boat. you've got your coach on the boat as well, and
Mhm.
then obviously you're sort of swimming alongside there as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
So the boat is maybe about a really good swimmer just swims in the pocket of it. I myself pull slightly to the left, so I was doing a bit more like
Okay.
on and off and on and off.
Yeah, fair enough. Um, yeah, what a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's talk about the moment that you get ashore and you kind of feel like this is it, I've finished it. Just talk to me what that was like.
So I didn't get so basically if you're aiming for the cap in the lighthouse,
Mm-hmm.
which is where where everybody is aiming for.
Mm-hmm.
There is no like beach or shore. The way that you've got to do it within the rules is you have to show that you are not supported by the water when you start. So basically, you're standing there, your arms above the water,
Mm-hmm.
and then so they can see, okay, they're not supported.
Yeah.
They pull the horn, off you go. And when you get to the other side, you also have to show this. So because on the cap, it's not like a beach that you would walk out
Yeah.
into. You basically get onto one of the rocks
Mm-hmm.
and then arms up, horns pulled. Yeah, that's it. You're good.
Okay.
Because of the rocks and the danger and the other things, the boat can't come in towards it.
Right.
So what generally happens is they get out like a rowing boat that comes out and comes alongside you and takes you into that shore piece.
Mm-hmm.
And usually as well, certainly for myself, your coach gets in as well.
Okay.
I think part of the reason for that is because you've been in the water so long swimming, if you stand up like this, all the blood does its thing, and
Right.
then you can,
Okay.
become unconscious, pass out, do whatever. So I
Right.
think the coach is there for a bit of safety.
Mhm.
As I say, he's not, or they're not allowed to go in front of you because of pacing.
Mhm.
So they sort of hang back.
Okay.
So then I got there, arms up, obviously, felt great,
Yeah.
but it wasn't quite the same as going onto the beach.
Uh-huh.
So when I did the relay, I did the beach part.
Okay.
And I came just to the west, I want to say, of it.
Mhm.
And there's like a French restaurant or so that's
Okay.
on there. So a lot of the people that are on there were like, who are these mad Englishmen who's
Yeah.
swimming ashore? They all recognise, give you a bit of
Okay.
a clap, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, that's quite nice.
Yeah.
So that felt more like the stereotypical landing when I did the relay piece. But I think in terms of emotions and feelings of when I did the solo and I landed there, I don't know, I was a bit in disbelief. It didn't feel real.
Really?
Like I think there was a bit of numbness
Mhm.
to me because I'd been going for so long.
Mhm.
It took me a while to and then also because I was so horribly seasick.
Mm.
So when I got back on the boat, I brought some Guinness with me as like a little celebration. So when I did marathon and things, there was always Guinness, off you go.
Yeah.
Just couldn't face it. So I just went to sleep immediately to try and right my stomach.
Wow.
And then I think it was when I was either driving back in the car or the next day, that's when I was like, oh wow, I've done it.
Seriously.
And I saw the post from the coach that they put onto socials and things
Mhm.
saying, oh, Alex Fletcher, he's officially an English Channel solo swimmer. And I was like, oh wow. And I got a little bit, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
but a year and a half of intense training, doing all this, getting sick of it. And
That's mad. So
yeah.
I guess you're almost, like you said, almost like delirious a bit when you land.
Yeah, absolutely. So
And would you say, I mean, silly question, but yeah, feeling a bit sick from the stomach problems, and then were you physically like just out, or did you feel like you were just like really 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 tired, or how did you feel?
yeah, I was pretty exhausted. And then I suppose the main couldn't lift my arms up.
Seriously?
So and then the other thing, I don't know if you heard of salt tongue.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So I had some lovely videos that I was
Oh.
sending to friends and other things. Is as you can imagine, you've been taking your diet very, very seriously up to that point. For me, I was like, I just want to have a naughty takeaway, naughty whatever. I'd spoken to other people who'd done it through the network, and one of them was like, I couldn't eat anything for 4 days other than just like ice cream and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, I'm always going to be able to eat. And then, so finished in Folkestone. Mrs. was like, I've got you all this food, got you everything. And I just couldn't face any of it, couldn't eat any of it. And then got home, and my parents were back at home, and they were like, Mum will cook you some food. And I was like, okay, great, I'll try some of this. And just bits of my tongue were just falling off like in my mouth as I was going, as I was eating. It stops you being able to taste stuff. It's not a particularly
Yeah.
not a particularly nice thing. That shows where my mind was at, just purely on the food.
Yeah.
But then I think the next day went and had lunch and stuff, and then I was okay by then, and I was definitely indulging in a lot of eating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I suppose the other physical side, other than exhaustion and just sleeping, I think I properly caught up sleep wise maybe 2 or 3 days later. So the other things that usually offer me, so I set off at 2:30 in the morning and finished at 4:30 the next day.
Right.
Because of coming to Folkestone, because of the weather, am I going, aren't I going? So I hadn't slept for like the day before or whatever as well. So that's another added thing that I don't think many people are aware of. So I hadn't slept and then was tracking that. So that added into the exhaustion factor.
Yeah.
And then as I said, couldn't really move my arms. So physio was super useful.
Yeah.
I think one thing I forgot to mention in the build-up training to it, so through physio, had got lots of shoulder stability sort of stuff to do.
Okay. Nice.
That was invaluable.
Really?
Had I not had that, because your shoulders pinch and ache and hurt, and no amount of ibuprofen can. Yeah. It's like Smarties, which is probably a bad thing. But, that kept that at bay to an extent. But the physio and the stability that added was absolutely crucial. Yeah. And then on the other side of that, just to keep my arms moving, was doing little exercises like having a brush in my arm to help lift it, walking my hand up one of the walls to help, and that just really helped to sort of stretch the arms back out. And I think I could lift my arms above my head fairly comfortably after about 2 days. Okay. Had I not done that, I don't know how long that would have taken, but that definitely helped with the recovery piece there as well.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, body's feeling pretty battered after that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in terms of after the challenge, would you say there's been any perspective shift in terms of, inwardly thinking about yourself or kind of any other changes in perspective, that you've sort of noticed?
Yeah, it's just, absolutely. So I knew this was going to be hard. I think when I was doing it, I didn't realize how hard it was going to be.
Yeah.
But again, through various other sort of techniques that we touched upon in terms of breaking it down by half an hour, telling people to hold you to account, listening to the good and all of that sort of thing, managed to sort of get through it and get to the other side. But it showed me the limits that I'd sort of, it made me feel like it was limitless in terms of the things that I could achieve and that I could look towards and that I could do. So it definitely switched that perspective. And I think now I'm way more willing to just look at something and go, with preparation, not anything is possible because that's within reason, but I have a lot more confidence in myself and my ability to do it. And a lot of the time I'll be like, gosh, this is hard, whatever I'm doing. And then I'll be like, remind yourself, just run the channel. This is, this should be all right.
Yeah.
You're not vomiting in the water, trying to struggle to keep down food. So that helped. I think, so coach said something as well that stuck with me in terms of that, which was your mind will let you get to, I think it's like 50% of what your body can achieve. And then your mind automatically wants to go, now, do you know what? Chill out now. It's time to slow down. But there's still another sort of 50% to go. Yeah. So no more like that fear, I think, of pushing yourself beyond where your mind tells you to stop or to slow down. Definitely sort of helped me. I've definitely got more to give than this, so let's keep pushing. And so I think for me, with all of that as well, next feat. So I'm keen to row the Atlantic with my brother as well. Also,
really,
I get wife is saying, that sort of training commitment. I've got a 5-year window, so maybe I think 3 is what I want to look at it. Hopefully, she doesn't see this and sees that. It's definitely 5 years, but I think just in like little events and little things like this. I think we alluded to before how you learn a lot about yourself, because ultimately for the 14 hours, yes, it's very meditative. I'd say that meditation piece is about an hour, and then after that, it's you and your thoughts for just like 14 hours, however long that takes you.
Yeah.
And if you're in quite a bad place or you've got bad problems or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
they can quickly get on top of you.
Mm-hmm.
I know some of the other swimmers that do some of the other Ocean 7 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Sea life is probably one of the big
Seriously,
things for that
yeah.
as well. So like marine shark attacks
Mm-hmm.
and other things fairly imminently. And I think
Yeah.
one of the chaps who did that was saying, if you just like, you let the bad thoughts in and you
Mm-hmm.
let them take precedence,
Yeah.
all he was thinking about was the fact that he is going to be
Okay.
attacked by a
It
shark,
just gets
like
worse and
imminently.
worse. Yeah.
And he really was like losing his head.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go down that
Yeah.
direction, it's so difficult
Yeah.
to pull yourself back out of it the other
Yeah.
way.
I guess it might be interesting to find out what ways that you bring yourself back or bring yourself away from those thoughts, because yeah, it's obviously that's probably the hardest bit, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say first and foremost, try not go down in that direction.
Yeah.
Like I said before, listen to the
So it's like noticing.
good thoughts.
Yeah.
But then when you do, I'd say the way that I would see that is you have, there's a divide in your, like say 50 good, 50 bad. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to the bad or the more negative ones, that becomes more dominant,
Mm-hmm.
70-80%. And that is really difficult to make a switch.
Yeah.
But almost, obviously, in the water, I couldn't speak to myself, saying to yourself,
mm-hmm.
this is, you're going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
Before people had said that, and I was like, that's so, how can that, but that is actually quite powerful in itself, just saying or thinking and
like
focusing on those
yeah.
positive ones. Yeah, positive affirmation really does help to restore that balance, and I'd say push the negative elements to the other side.
I think I listened to Ross Edgley about some of his preparation for that big swim, and I think he spoke to someone from the army, I think, and they were talking about the process and just focusing on your next stroke. Yeah. So just breaking it down into even smaller chunks as a way to kind of not look at the bigger picture and freak out.
So that's exactly what. Sorry, another technique. There's so many of these. Yeah. So did exactly that.
Mm-hmm.
So I spoke before about technique and focusing on stuff. Coach would say, do this. Enter the water at a different angle or something, and then I'd concentrate on just an hour, just trying to do that. And if I'd lose my mind and I couldn't focus about that, he'd go, okay, now try and do this and focus on a different thing, with your pull or with other. So I suppose, that would absolutely be a way to, but again, it's just anything that doesn't let you just overwhelm yourself with those sort of negative thoughts. So they're definitely there and everybody has them. Yeah. It's just how you deal with that, I think.
Definitely. Yeah. I can imagine that's a good skill to develop, definitely outside of, swimming and, athletic sports and things like that. I think, everyone needs a bit of that in work and things like that. So I can imagine that's probably quite helpful. Yeah.
I'd say the other thing as well, I enjoy it. It's easier said than done. There was certainly when I was setting off, so I set off, it was pitch black. There was parts where I was swimming where, it got a bit cold, it got a bit, wasn't particularly pleasant. And I remember just seeing like the stars in the sky, being like, do you know what? This is cool. Like, just having even the opportunity to do this is a good thing. Like, if you don't push yourself through this now, all this training's been for nothing. Like, enjoy firstly the journey to it, so meeting all these people, and then when you're there and you're doing it, try and take a few minutes to go, actually, this is pretty good. It's pretty fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Again, easier said than done.
Because I watched Kim Swims. Do you know the documentary on, I think, Prime, maybe?
Yeah.
I think she did the big, what did you call it? The big seven. Yeah.
The Ocean 7.
Yeah, the Ocean 7, yeah. And I think definitely a big challenge for her was the sort of sea life side of things,
development of pastes and all sorts of stuff to keep jellyfish at bay.
I think it was the Irish Sea as well. She got like pneumonia or something just because of how cold it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Irish so the Northern Channel is what that's called, is it's definitely way more chilly, much colder, and you can hear, again, this is one of the ones that I like to do coming up, but you can hear whales in the water.
Really?
You see a lot more the seals that are at your feet and all sorts of things like that. So
So let's talk about any advice you would give to anyone in terms of extreme endurance sports, anything that you feel like, if someone kind of came up to you and said, I want to do something similar, what kind of advice would you give them? Yeah.
So I think three things definitely that helped me.
Mm-hmm.
So again, different things work for different people in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Try more, find the thing that works for you, and off you go. But the three things that I would say helped me was tell people what you're going to do and have conviction and do it. Yeah. They will hold you to account for that. And yeah. Number two would be listen to the positive thoughts and focus on those. Really hone in and focus on those. For me, what worked really well was putting a friendly voice to those as well. And then three would be enjoy it and the journey, and on the actual event, try and take some moments to really appreciate what you're doing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, we normally finish with highlight, low light, and most surprising moment. So, of the challenge of just the training for the challenge. So if we start with highlight.
Okay, so highlight. If we go with the highlight of the actual swim itself, probably the first like half an hour. I remember, so adrenaline really high, didn't feel sick, felt really good. And I remember, like, just as I was swimming, because I set off quite early in the morning, I remember just seeing like really nice stars, like the cliffs of Dover to the rear, and I was like, do you know what, this is awesome. You know, you said you're going to do this, you put your mind to it, and here you are giving it a go. So that felt probably the nicest with the event. I appreciate most would say, well, finishing it, but it just felt so surreal for me. I just wasn't really processing at that point. So yeah, I think that's of the event. And then of the whole thing, I would say actually on the other side of it, showing myself that I could do that, and the way that that's changed how my brain is wired, and it's changed what to expect and to what to fall in line with, and go, do you know what, you can do most things, provided you give it a go. I suppose surprise myself with what you can do. So
that's awesome. And most surprising
was probably the jellyfish piece there, which was jellyfish in the knickers. Was not
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Yeah, exactly, something like that. So
and then not to finish on the low light, but anything that you would say sticks out as just any kind of low light for you?
I think the on the bus, off the bus, with my windows to the swim, and like that continual build to think you're going, and then to not go. The windows were gapped by a few weeks. So then when I thought, by this time in a few weeks I'd be finished, actually then I was ramping back up my training just before the taper again. And just getting back in the pool or getting back to the training was super difficult.
Really?
Like that was probably for me the hardest and the lowest. And I get, if you ask my wife, she was akin to the frustrations that was experienced in there. So she really helped in terms of just good food on those days where I was really struggling, and other things like that as well. So
that's amazing. And well, thanks so much for coming on. I really appreciate you giving your time. And hey, if you do the Atlantic rowing event, then you're welcome back on, and I'm sure I could probably get some help from you if I decide to do the channel crossing as well.
When you do it, Ed, give me a shout. Start with a relay.
I need that pressure.
Absolutely.
So I appreciate you coming on, and congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.